Hello everyone, and welcome to this flipped classroom activity in which you will learn about some of the tools used to color correct and color grade. A colorist cannot do without these tools. It would be the same as a pilot flying without navigation instruments. So, to begin with, we'll be looking at scopes and why we use them. By the end of this webcast, you'll be able to understand the following: the definition of a waveform monitor and its uses, the definition of an RGB Parade and its uses, as well as the definition of a Vectorscope and its uses. After watching the video, you will need to attempt the formative assessment quiz posted in the comments section. You will have needed to have done this before joining the face-to-face class session in order to understand the what and the why we use these tools and their impact on color grading. It is imperative that you take responsibility in completing this task before joining the face-to-face session, as the class has been integrated in a specific manner to maximize practical hands-on time. The in-class session will give you the opportunity to experiment with the tools as I take you through real-world practices on how colorists achieve amazing looks on feature films, world-acclaimed documentaries, and TV series. Color correction versus color grading. These are terms that are broadly used in film, but with very little understanding what differentiates them. You'll often be speaking to a director of photography saying, "We'll balance the color in the grade," or hear a producer say, "Let's color correct the scene by making it look like the Matrix." Generally, people will understand that they want some form of correction and color treatment. But in a professional context, they are incorrect with the use of each term. Color correction is more technical in nature by making adjustments to individual images that have quality and luminance differences. If footage from a camera has not been white balanced, the image will either look blue or yellow, depending on the environment it was shot in. During the edit, this shot might have been edited together with footage from a different time or day which has been white balanced. Now you have two different colors that do not match each other, and the scene dictates that these must match, so that the viewer thinks that the scene has been shot in perfect succession. This is a color balancing process and falls under color correction. Color grading is what follows to create a specific look for all the balanced shots using layers with windows and keys. This process is more of an artistic choice and is applied to all the color corrected shots to create a stylistic look. A colorist's job is part science, part artistry. For today, the most important scientific tools that a colorist needs are 1. A waveform monitor, 2. An RGB Parade, 3. A Vectorscope, and 4. A color picker. You will get to use these tools in a technical classroom environment, but for now, you just need to understand what they do. You will learn how a colorist uses these tools to balance a scene and how far they can push a grade before things start looking bad or worse, illegal. More on this later. We'll begin with the waveform monitor. A waveform monitor is a special type of oscilloscope used to measure and display the level or voltage of the lines of video signal over time. The light in a scene is translated to voltage, with brighter light showing as higher voltage. Pure black is at 0. Pure white is at 1023 in a 10-bit world. When playing the image and watching the waveform at the same time, you can see the image displayed in black and white as voltage, which is known as trace. All shadows are at the bottom and all the highlights at the top, with grayscale in the middle of the waveform monitor. A colorist uses this tool to make sure all luminance levels are uniform whilst balancing a scene. If the shadows don't match from one shot to the next, then the viewer will pick up on this and it will bother them that something isn't quite right. The same goes for the midtones and highlights. If black levels are dropped too far and they begin flatlining, it means that the dark areas are too crushed, which causes the detail to completely disappear in the shadow areas, which can be undesirable. The same goes for the highlights. If they are pushed too high and flatten out at the very top of the waveform, this is known as clipping, and all the details in the highlight areas burn out, which is highly undesirable. Take this example where there is detail in the highlights to start, but when pushed too far, it blows out, clipping the highlights. All film and digital images are made up of 3 primary colors: red, green, and blue. The RGB Parade also measures color in voltage as trace, but shows the colorist how much of each color sits in the darker, mid, or highlighted areas. This tool helps the colorist to balance color in each shot. If the shot looks too cold in the highlights to the eye, the colorist will confirm that the RGB Parade shows the same thing. The colorist can quickly adjust the RGB levels and neutralize the color balance. The Vectorscope is a video scope that provides greater data about the color properties of a video image. It measures the amount of hue and saturation in the image. It has a direct link to a color wheel. Going clockwise, starting with red, magenta, blue, cyan, green, and lastly yellow. The very center of the Vectorscope is black and white. So when color is introduced, it begins to expand outwards, and we get a clear indication where and how much color there is. If the color is pushed too far and it breaks out of the tolerance levels, the color will be deemed illegal, and a broadcaster will reject the entire program, even if it only occurs once, even for a split second. So make sure you are always within the legal limits. Another feature that the Vectorscope has is a diagonal line between yellow and red, which is known as the skin tone indicator. This line is designed to represent blood flow traveling through the human skin. The colorist uses this line to make sure that an actor's skin actually looks human. Go towards yellow and people begin to look like they have jaundice. Not such a fun fact, but when new babies look yellow from a substance in the bloodstream called bilirubin, they get what's known as jaundice. So it's not a desirable skin tone color. Go too close to red and the actors will look like they have a severe skin allergy. The color picker helps the colorist determine exactly what levels of red, green, and blue there are in a specific pixel. Now the colorist can determine whether the white levels or grayscale in an image is neutral. If one color is more dominant in the white areas, then the image is not balanced. The colorist can now use the RGB Parade to adjust the level needed to balance the color and neutralize the image. Now you should have some insight as to why these tools are used and why they are so important. Take the time to go back over the material if you're unsure of any of the explanations, and please make sure to post any questions in the comments section below. Ask yourself, which of these tools a colorist would use more than the others, and post your answer and your reasoning why in the comments section below. Please remember to take the formative assessment quiz posted in the comments section, and I look forward to seeing you in class where you will get the opportunity to use these tools on some beautifully shot world-class footage.